MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
I'm Jonathan Amberian in Helena. The national project PolitiFact took a closer look at some of the claims that former President Donald Trump made during his Friday night speech in Bozeman. I'll have more details.
Waiting for Iran to retaliate. I'm Jared Hill with the high tensions in the Middle East as Israel braces for an attack the U.S. says could come as soon as this week with little to no warning.
I'm Megan Thompson here at the original Mine Yard. It's the site of many of Butte's music festivals. Coming right up, I'll speak with the organizer of Enri Raw about the success of the event despite the huge rainstorm that passed through town on Saturday night.
Alrighty, it is 6 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. Jane McDonald, Matt Elwell with you bright and early.
And
that
Matt, plane there.
Is it
taking off or
is it
landing? I think it's landing.
Oh, I think it's coming in hot, Matt.
All right, well.
Help it land, Matt.
Well, just steering it in, yeah. Looks like our temperatures this morning, not bad. Generally seeing 30s out toward West Yellowstone, 40s and 50s for most of the area for the morning. It's very comfortable, if not a little cool and refreshing to start the morning. Afternoon does bring us the potential some heavier downpours. I do have some concerns, maybe some gusty winds, the potential of some small to moderate hail, but I think that for the most part, these are pretty garden variety thunder showers, just packing a lot more rain as we're starting the morning. It's a look off the Montana State University campus. Our temperatures expected to be into the 70s and low 80s for daytime highs, but with afternoon and evening thunder showers likely. I'm going to break down our rain potential, air quality, and much more in just a few minutes.
All right. Thank you very much, Matt. Well, it was a busy weekend for local law enforcement, with former President Donald Trump holding a rally at MSU, while counter events were also scheduled around town. And this meant a large police presence was required to ensure these events were safe. Bozeman Police Department's Deputy Chief Andy Knight tells us that the department has plans in place for events like these. He says that they use large-scale events like Cat Grizz to help them prepare for unexpected events like political rallies. Knight tells us that the department spread their resources all over town to keep events safe and still have officers available to patrol the rest of the city.
In those events, it costs money. We have an overtime budget. I mean, overtime budget itself is necessary for these unplanned events or unplanned times, and so that budget exists.
Both the sheriff's office and police department say it'll take a couple of weeks to figure out the true cost of this past weekend. And that rally featured former President Trump speaking for more than 90 minutes in front of a crowd of thousands. Staff from the national project PolitiFact watched the rally and released a fact check, taking a closer look at some of the claims Trump made during his speech. MTN senior political reporter Jonathan Amberian has more.
PolitiFact editor-in-chief Katie Sanders says as the presidential campaign has heated up, they've been taking a closer look at claims from both the Republican and Democratic tickets. She says many of the statements that former President Trump made during his Friday night rally in Bozeman are ones they've heard multiple times before.
But because it was our first time fact-checking Trump's appearance in that state and partnering with Montana news outlets, we wanted to highlight some of those repeats for anybody who was hearing it for the first time.
On Saturday, PolitiFact followed up on 5 of Trump's statements from his Bozeman rally. 3 of them dealt with one of his main topics, immigration.
Illegal aliens are stampeding into America by the millions and millions. They're coming from prisons, they're coming from jails.
PolitiFact says federal data isn't complete, but it identifies just over 100,000 non-citizens with criminal convictions arrested by Customs and Border Protection since 2021, and not all of them were let in.
Sure, some migrants who do manage to cross the border do have criminal backgrounds, but that is not the millions and millions.
Trump also touted his economic record as president.
I handed Kamala and Crooked Joe a surging economy with no inflation. We had no inflation. We had nothing.
Inflation was lower during Trump's presidency than Biden's, but it never hit zero. And the lowest point was at the height of the COVID pandemic.
We know from covering economic claims over the years from both sides, there's a lot of cherry picking involved.
Randon Gregg, a business owner and legislative candidate from White Sulphur Springs, attended the rally. He said he didn't think fact-checking was unreasonable, but that people should take it with a grain of salt. He said in many cases, Trump is using rhetoric in service of a valid point.
Yeah, you kind of have to zoom out and be like, hey, these overall, this is kind of the macro situation. These are the policies we're going to be pushing. These are the policies we're against, but at a macro level.
During the rally, Trump also alluded to fact-checkers.
Kamala, sometimes referred to as Kamala. You know, she got about 9 different ways of pronouncing the name. And because the press is so dishonest, no matter how you say it, they'll say you were wrong. You were wrong. I don't care if I get it right. Actually, I couldn't care less.
You can find all of PolitiFact's recent fact checks on both parties on their website, PolitiFact.com. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
And this morning, Israel is on high alert for an attack from Iran that the U.S. warns could come as soon as this week. The U.S. Defense Department is moving more troops and equipment to the region as President Biden and other world leaders push for peace talks to resume between Israel and Hamas. CBS News' Jared Hill has more from New York.
Tensions are high in the Middle East as the U.S. says Iran or its proxies could strike Israel as soon as this week with little to no warning. The Pentagon is rushing a guided missile submarine and the USS Lincoln Strike Group to the region in hopes of deterring all-out war after Iran vowed to avenge the recent assassinations of Hamas and Hezbollah leaders.
We are committed to helping Israel defend itself, but at the same time, we continue to work diplomatically to prevent any major escalation of this conflict.
Yesterday, President Biden joined a call with the leaders of the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and Italy, during which the group urged Iran to stand down on its threats of a military attack and discussed serious consequences should an attack occur. Israeli defense leaders say its forces are at peak preparedness for an attack. The country's former prime minister also warning Iran to think twice.
If there is a war between Israel and Iran, it's going to be a war between Iran and the United States of America, and Great Britain, and France, and maybe other European countries, and Israel.
The U.S. and its allies are also continuing to push for a ceasefire and hostage release deal between Israel and Hamas as Israeli forces continue operations in southern Gaza. So far, only Israel has committed to sending a delegation with negotiations set to resume Thursday, though an attack from Iran could disrupt those talks. Jared Hill, CBS News.
And this morning, Iran rejected pleas from the U.S. and Europe not to attack Israel, saying those calls, quote, lack political logic. That, according to Reuters. Meanwhile, Iran-backed groups have also escalated their attacks on U.S. troops stationed in Iraq and Syria since the war broke out between Israel and Hamas last October 7th. The Pentagon said yesterday that a number of U.S. service members suffered minor injuries in a drone attack in Syria Friday. That came a few days after a rocket strike in Iraq wounded 4 U.S. troops. Now, a little bit closer to home, our Scripps News investigative team obtained new body camera footage showing firsthand images of the July Trump rally where a 20-year-old man tried to assassinate the former president. National investigative correspondent Lori Jane Gilla has been combing through that footage with her team.
Seriously, he was right where you picked me up, bro. He was on that left side. Yeah, he's got he's laying down, burned out, book bag next to him.
Frantic moments as Butler Township police officers scramble to stop the gunman who ultimately fired 8 shots at former President Donald Trump. Police dash camera footage captures the sound of shots being fired. Moments earlier, in body camera footage with no audio obtained by Scripps News, you can see a local Butler Township police officer asking to be hoisted up onto a roof. Abruptly, he falls back to the ground and makes a mad dash for his police vehicle, where he puts together his gun and calls out to the other officers.
Getting this close, bro. Dude, he turned around on me. He's straight up.
All right, ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3.
By the time he returns with his gun, other law enforcement officials are on the roof, and the gunman is dead in front of them, shot by a Secret Service sniper.
Pretty sure we got shot at. It was a real close snap, dude.
Bro, before you just came up here. I popped my head up there like an idiot by myself, dude. He turned around, I dropped, and I saw.
That's how they got somebody up there. I thought somebody was up there. I put my head up here. If he was up there, I'd be toast.
Dude, that's how I'm calling out, bro. On top of the roof, and we on the same frequency.
Later, in a different body camera clip, you can hear police officers speaking amongst themselves in the chaotic aftermath. One officer tells another about a conversation he says he had with the Secret Service earlier in the week.
I told the Secret Service, post guy over here. I told him that the meeting on Tuesday.
Lori Jangliha, Scripps News, Denver.
And I'm sure more to follow in that investigation. Now, a little bit closer to home, some rain over the weekend might have made the annual Enri Raw Festival a little bit wet, but the spirits of those in attendance were anything but damp. Our Megan Thompson talks to the organizers for a recap of the weekend of Irish fun.
Extreme weather has been impacting summer festivals here in Butte, and Enri Raw was no exception this weekend as a severe thunderstorm rolled through town and cut the show off early. But despite the weather, festival organizers say that the event was still a success and they're excited for next year.
Friday night we had lightning delays that start and stopped the show throughout the night, and then Saturday we dealt with weather the entire day and eventually were washed out at the end there.
The storm may have derailed the outdoor show, but dancers put on one final performance on Saturday night in the old church across the street. And Brendan McDonough, one of the Enri Raw organizers, says despite the weather, the show drew an audience of happy people.
You know, a lot of people stuck around and were very cordial, and were able to see quite a bit of music, really, considering how the weather went.
This year's Enri Raw Festival celebrates 20 years, and Brendan says the show will be on again next year.
I think everyone's pretty tired after the weekend, so we'll probably take about a month off and then start formulating a plan for next year.
In Butte, Megan Thompson, MTN News.
I gotta say, Matt, those little dancers, one of my favorite parts. There's so many fun parts of Enri Raw, but it's
so much
great
skill
thing.
involved.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I love when they start this big, too.
Yeah,
it's so sweet to see. All right, before we head into a break, I wanted to share this with you. Now, we're actually going to be heading overseas a little bit, the Bonsai Garden. Now, this is a huge park that entrepreneur Halim Zukek has transformed. Now, this is a lifelong dream of his. He loves Vincent van Gogh, and he wanted to recreate Van Gogh's Starry Night.
I think that's pretty cool.
It's a natural park. I mean, it's an interactive park.
Right.
Taboo. I mean, you can't really interact with a priceless painting very closely.
But he did this using plants.
Yeah, absolutely. Using plants, different vegetation in there.
Tiering, terracing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good.
It's really, really cool. I mean, fun for the whole family. Even your four-legged friends can come over.
I can barely plan ahead for my day, let alone planning something like that.
Do a little Starry Night action.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if my dog would do too well in a situation like that. I don't know if he would appreciate the setting that he's in.
I know mine wouldn't.
But it's really cool. I mean, it's comprised of over 130,000 lavender bushes, and I mean, could you imagine the amount of greenery?
That's pretty amazing.
That's a lot of dirt to be moving
dedication
around.
Too.
Absolutely. All right, quick break here at Montana this morning. When we come back, though, Matt's going to have a look at that forecast for you and your top stories coming right at you.